I'm Ula Pontikos, and I'm a cinematographer of The Men in My Basement, and we are listening to Cinematography podcast.
The following podcast contains explicit language. You're listening to the Cinematography podcast presented by Hot Rod Cameras, a program about the art, craft, and philosophy of the moving image and the people who make it happen. Coming to you from the world headquarters of Hot Rod Cameras in Hollywood, California, are your hosts, Ben Rock and Ilya Friedman.
Hey there, Ben. Welcome back to another fine episode of the Cinematography podcast.
Woohoo! I missed it. It's been 6 days.
6 days. That's exactly how long it's been. Hey, well, who is on our show today?
We have the amazing Ula Pontikos on the show. She shot a really amazing movie that you can stream right now on Hulu called The Man in My Basement. And it's very interesting in many ways, like how they shot it in Wales for upstate New York, I think, or New England. It's a really claustrophobic, weird ass thriller featuring just amazing performances completely around the horn. Everyone's great in it. It's got Willem Dafoe as a creepy guy who comes to rent a man's basement and pay him a lot of money, and then builds a cage for himself that he lives in the basement.
You had me at Willem Dafoe. I'll see anything that guy does. That's
I know. I wanted to say it's like a courageous, fearless performance by Willem Dafoe, but isn't that every performance by Willem Dafoe? When has Willem Dafoe ever phoned it in? Never is when. But the whole cast is great. It looks amazing. Ula's fantastic, and it was a pleasure to talk to her.
It sounds fantastic. That's great. It's on Huluween right now. Is that where you can stream it?
That is what our producer Alana told me, and I would say I wouldn't necessarily call this a horror movie. I would call it maybe kind of a bit of a psychological thriller / character study. It's not a scary movie, but you know, I think it's a movie that horror fans will like. I thought it was awesome. I think it's a really good film, and I think Ula did an amazing job at creating a mood and a tone and a whole world. It's not a super limited number of locations, but it's a kind of a limited scope thing because it's all around a guy who's kind of dealing with limited scope in his life, and I think her insights are awesome. I thought she was great.
Wow. All right. That sounds super cool. So Ben, it is our close focus time of the show.
And now, Close Focus.
That's when we talk about what's going on in the world of entertainment. Was there something in particular that you wanted to yak about today?
Well, this is going to be kind of an old man shakes fist at cloud moment, I think, for both of us.
Okay.
This is something that came up in Variety in that they have adapted Amadeus. Sky TV has adapted Amadeus into a miniseries starring Paul Bettany as Salieri. Now, in theory, I don't really have a problem with this. And obviously me having a problem with this wouldn't stop anyone from making anything. But I would say that as soon as I saw it and then I watched I was like, oh, I'll be, to give a for instance.
It's a fresh take. Yeah, something completely new.
When I heard that they were making a series out of, when Amazon made a series out of Dead Ringers, I'm a huge fan of David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers. And then it's like, oh, they gender switched the characters, they modernized it, they made it, more about the modern fertility movement. It's a much deeper, broader scope of a story. No, even as a giant fan of the original Dead Ringers, no objections to that. I watched the trailer for this, and it's a mini-series, so presumably it's going to be a lot longer than Milos Forman's 1985 Oscar-winning film, multiple Oscar-sweeping film with a perfect cast and a perfect look and perfect cinematography and perfect everything. And I watched the trailer, and I'm like, it looks like the same thing. You could cut this footage into Milos Forman's Amadeus, and you wouldn't even notice it. And I don't want to cast aspersions without knowing anything about it. And so, I've kind of looked into it to kind of see who's behind it. Everyone seems great. I'm not against it at all. And in fact, I'm excited, maybe to talk to Kate McCullough, who's the DP on it, and see what her take was. but it has nothing to do with the craftsmanship of all the people involved, or the amazing cast. I mean, the cast looks just incredible, and it seems like the Constanza character, that's Mozart's wife, seems like her character maybe is getting beefed up a lot in this, but she actually has a pretty major role, especially if you watch the director's cut of the original Amadeus. I don't know. I just have to ask myself, what is the point in basically making a remake of something that was so perfectly pulled off the first time?
Money. I think the answer is money. I think they said, hey, you know what we could make some money on? We could recycle some IP that has no intellectual property restrictions due to copyright for the music.
That's true. But I mean, you've got Peter Shaffer's original play that it's adapted from, so you're gonna. I mean, obviously the writer is not the massive cost driver on an undertaking of this size. Maybe they're working on an MCU that's the Mozart centric universe.
Look, I think my reaction is a little bit like yours, because I think that Amadeus is such an incredible movie. It's like. I can quibble with it. I can say it's not perfect, but damn, is it amazing. And it's completely deserves
How dare
all its
you
awards.
say it's not perfect? What's not perfect about it? Dick Smith's old age makeup on F. Murray Abraham won an Oscar. And
incredible.
It's incredible. F. Murray Abraham was an unknown actor and won the Oscar for that movie and is still a star to this day. Tom Hulce, who played Amadeus, I mean, like, we knew him from things like Animal House and stuff like that, but suddenly it's like, oh my God, this guy is such an amazing actor, all up and down. Milos Forman, who'd made, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and all these amazing movies. It was like a star turn for everyone involved.
It's amazing. It absolutely, it pulls it off. It sticks the landing. There's so much great stuff from beginning to end. All I'm saying is that it feels like the argument that people make against remaking something or rebooting something is how close it is to perfection. It's like, why would you do this? Like, why would you reboot something like that? And okay, so I'm saying maybe not perfect. It's not usually vaulted in that same sort of sacrosanct way that certain other movies are always lauded over and over and over again as being perfect. Now, I would say, I think it's just because people don't remember Amadeus, because it's not as much in the forefront of their minds the way it was. Maybe this series will get people to go back and watch the original. I don't know. So
yeah, maybe. I mean, here's the thing. I have watched the director's cut of Amadeus within the last year or two, and it feels completely modern today as it did then. And it's one of those, like when I saw it when I was a teenager. And
it's 84.
When you're a teenager, the last thing you want to watch is a bunch of people wearing wigs in a stupid period piece, flouncing around and pretending that they're in Vienna, whatever. And when I saw it, I could not take my eyes off it. In fact, I had the movie poster on my wall for years. And I think that the first time I even thought about cinematography was because I had that poster on my wall and I saw the name of Miroslav Antredek, who shot the original Amadeus. And I was like, what? I wonder what he did. I'm a teenager. And, I've seen it a gajillion times. It's dark. It's funny. Even though it takes place in antiquity, it feels very modern today. And so, like, watching the trailer, I was like, they nailed it. It's the same vibe. It's the same tone. It's a similar look. I'm sure that they have done their due diligence to make it its own thing. But, sometimes when I see something that's like just perfect, like couldn't have been executed better, in my opinion, it would be like if somebody made a TV series out of Blue Velvet. It'd be like, what? If David Lynch made a TV series out of Blue Velvet, you'd be like, okay, well, David Lynch has more to say about Blue Velvet. But, I felt similarly when they made the Suspiria remake, which is, the Dario Argento movie from the 70s. And, I'm not saying that the end product lacks merit. It's just when you take something that's so exactly what it needs to be.
Agreed.
And then,
agreed. It won 8 Oscars. It doesn't have a bunch of unanswered questions. It's a really, wonderful self-contained movie that doesn't feel like it needs a reboot, a series, a sequel. It doesn't feel like it needs any of that. And granted, maybe they really will try to do something different with this. But you and I both just watched the trailer, and I mean, you're right. It looks like they're trying to remake Amadeus in a series form. And you know what? Are you going to watch it?
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah. I'm totally gonna watch it.
I'll totally watch it too.
Yeah.
So I have to completely watch this. Yeah. So, so yes, maybe this is why they're brilliant. Maybe this is why they're brilliant. This is something that, because Amadeus was so beloved, maybe they think that people like you and me are just going to automatically tune in. It'll be interesting to see if other people do.
I mean,
it'll be interesting.
It definitely gets at least one episode out of me, but I'll be interested to see how they do it. Maybe sometime in the early part of 2026, we'll be interviewing Kate McCullough about her work on the show.
Yeah, could be. All right, Ben, we should get to the interview.
All right, here we go. Here's Ula Pontikos.
The Cinematography Podcast Interview.
Well, let's talk a little bit about The Man in My Basement. You shot it in Wales, correct?
Yes, I did. Within Wales and The Man in My Basement, first of all, when I come to the project, obviously that project had many reiterations, and I think they had a stop-starts within the strikes, and therefore some of the locations were loosely in place, and it really comes down to Nadia and her sensibility to choose the locations which were very much similar to what Sag Harbor is. So
was it always Wales? Was she always going to shoot it in Wales?
I think they were looking at other locations, and Wales seemed like a place. I'm sure there was a financial reasons for it, but I think that because of the co-production and because the project has started with Protagonist, I believe, which is a British company. So I think UK was a sort of a natural progression of finding the location, or at least a studio, and I think it sort of progressed into a location, and a lot of the locations sort of worked. I thought that it was a matter of light, of the right light, and we were very, very, very lucky with that.
Did you visit Sag Harbor to kind of see it? I mean, I don't know if you even. I mean, that seems like a luxury. Like, hey, we're shooting in Wales, but let's go fly to Sag Harbor and look at it. But like, how did you research what Sag Harbor looks like?
Well, one of the reasons I think why I got chosen for the project is because I spent 9 months prior to, just back in 2021, 2022, filming a project which actually had part of the locations in the Hamptons. It was a TV drama called Three Women. Mm-hmm. We were shooting Martha Vineyards for Hamptons, Hamptons for Martha Vineyards, rather. And I spent majority of the project, I spent from September, actually, that was till March. So I was very aware of the light and of the location. We were filming all across New York State. And as well as that, my partner's family comes from Woodstock, or rather lives in Woodstock. So I was actually quite aware of the place, and I've been there enough time to understand the location.
Oh, that's really cool. And now I had read that you went to the London Film School, right?
No, the National Film and Television School.
In London?
In London, yes.
Okay.
But there are two film schools. One is London Film School and one is NFTS, the National Film and Television School. That's the one I went, which actually technically is in Beaconsfield, not London, which is away from London. But
got it. But you went to film school in London. But were you familiar with Wales? Had you been to Wales? Did you know it well at that time?
Yeah, my partner's family also lives in Wales,
Wow.
funnily enough. His sister lives there. No, I was aware of Wales. I mean, I lived in the UK for about 27 years. We always travel for work and for pleasure. We're humans, so I was aware of the Wales light. To be honest, when Nadia told me, Nadia Latif, the director of The Man in My Basement, said that we're shooting Sag Harbor for Wales, my first question was, how? Yeah. And then I saw the locations and I saw the way of thinking of how she thought about pairing it, and it felt to me very organic, or organic enough that we can make it work. Light-wise, normally Wales in winter is very rainy.
Mm-hmm.
When we were prepping, I have never seen so much rain, because we had many storms in the UK. Sort of, I think for about 5 weeks, there was 3 types of storms coming across, around the studios, and I thought this is just never going to work, because it was unbearable in many ways. And then January happened, and we had the most amazing light. We were so lucky.
What would you have done had you not had the most amazing light? That sounds horrifying.
I don't know. I was thinking about it. There's very little you can do, because, the project wasn't a huge budget. There was a level of you don't, even with incredible amount of money, you don't want to sort of fight the weather. You feel then
there's a lot of the movie there's a lot that takes place outside or in a house where you can see the outside. I mean, I guess you could just not see the outside in those shots. But...
the house was entirely constructed.
It was?
Yes.
But we still have a great deal of exteriors that you had to work with.
So Catherine either decided, so the way why it worked is because, so let's start with Sag Harbor. Sag Harbor is a very arts and crafts area, sort of predominantly used to be African-American area, and with a certain style of the houses. And so the designer of the show has built 2 sides, the front and a side, which was basically a shell with a front door. Mm-hmm. Then there was a composite set of basement, ground floor, which you guys call the first floor, and the first floor, which was you guys call it the second floor. So 3 levels of the house, which were all in different parts of the location, with the cyc around, which we then lit, with carefully planned shots that when we are looking out, we are on the location. We only had 2 VFX shots where we had to superimpose the green screen with the location which we grabbed from Martha Mauer Place, where the exterior was.
So it was a green screen cyc that you had outside the set?
No, we had a sort of a forest cyc.
Like a translight or something?
Yeah, sort of. It was not that great. We just planned our shots quite carefully.
Yeah, keep it out of focus.
Well, there was one shot when Narcissus comes into the house first time when she visiting Charles. That actually ended up being a VFX shot, and there was one shot from inside of the house where we don't know where Anniston has escaped. And there was from deep inside, we see into the woodland areas.
Yeah.
So we did that as a VFX shot, and maybe there was one in the basement. But otherwise, we just shot on the locations to sort of put in the point of view. So we pre-planned it to put the point of view of the character looking out. Or we shot with the door, and the camera was inside with the fake exterior building. To be looking out over the shoulder, with the first time when Anniston and Charles comes in.
That's impressive because
meets each other.
I'm always attuned to like what looks like a VFX shot, like it's always driving shots or whatever. But like I'm always attuned to that, and nothing in the movie ever drew my attention as even potentially VFX shots. I just kind of bought all of it. So kudos to you for shooting it, and whoever did your VFX for making it really, really seamless. So
well, as I said, I think that also the whole idea was that you sold that you're at the location from the moment when Charles opens the door.
Yeah.
And then there is a shot when he comes out and he talks to his neighbor. So you are in the world by that time, believing that you're on a location. And I think Nadia and I talked a lot about making that part right, because if we get that right, you believe everything else.
So let's talk about like what brought you onto the project and how you met Nadia and kind of how your general collaboration works. So you know how what was your first call to possibly work on the project?
Well, I think Nadia had a pre-selected people who she thought she wanted to send the script to. We had an interview, and I believed, I just learned yesterday that she already knew most of my work. So, I mean, I don't think that she interviewed that many people. I think she interviewed a specific number of people who she thought that they were good for the project and found something interesting to collaborate with. And what, you know, we had a little interview yesterday for the BSC. It was interesting. Yeah, I've asked for the BSC, British Society of Cinematographers, to do it with Nadia. And actually it was quite interesting to hear her talking about choosing a cinematographer and the reasons why. So I think, you know, director will choose a cinematographer for different cinematographers for different reasons. In my case, I think it was quite interesting to have a female gaze talking about male stories. I think we have throughout the cinema saw men telling story about women.
Yeah.
And I think there was something interesting about having predominantly all-female crew, which that's what it ended up being. The costume designer, the production designer, makeup, cinematography were women. We did have a male editor. I think, I'm not sure how much predetermined it was, but I think that was definitely something which ended up, you know, in the back of her mind. I think it was quite interesting.
But I think it's interesting, though, that it is a predominantly female crew and it is a man's story. This whole story is about a man. And you're right. I feel like, you know, we don't bat an eye when Hitchcock makes a movie about a woman. I feel like it's completely appropriate and awesome to do it. When you and Nadia were kind of breaking the script down in pre-production or whatever, like, what was your collaboration like? How did you guys, how did you approach? Was it shot listing? Was it storyboards? Was it, you know, some directors prefer to see a performance before they kind of hone in on the coverage that they're going to get, or if there is coverage. Like, what was the general creative approach to the material?
So Nadia has been sitting with this project for about 4 years, and she has essentially co-written the script, which sort of end up being her interpretation. So she had ideas of how she wanted to tell the story, and she drew a sticks and sort of representative of certain shots, sort of pulled it out. I think there was like 2 references from a movie, but otherwise it was mainly sort of drawing sticks and saying, you know, these are the moments where I imagine it. You know, what do we do with this? And I think from that point, we just talked about where would we like the camera to be? Who do we want the camera to be with? You know, I think we were thriving for a certain level of simplicity of the shots. And knowing when we're going to move the camera and how we're going to move the camera in different moments. And I keep saying that this film has ended up as a succession of 2 shots with a different power dynamic. It's 2 shots of 2 people coming together and falling in love with each other, or being sexually attracted to each other, or being in opposition to each other, or having a power struggle or a commodity exchange, sort of like light bulb. So it's how do we tell the story? Do we want to be with the character? Do we want to be away from the character and observe the 2 characters together? Do we want to give them the same importance and show them within the different sizes of the frame? We talked about all those elements. Do we want to be inside of the cage? Do we want to be outside of the cage? Do we want to see Charles through the cage bars to say something else? So we discussed every single beat in relationship to the character and the story, and then decided whether we're going to track or zoom slightly, or whether we're going to have a camera with a more of a fluid moment. Are we going to be obtrusive, or are we going to be invisible? And that's really how we covered the majority of the film. So there were beats and certain moments which Nadia wanted to do, the inserts, the little moments, the glances, the seeing young Charles in the mirror and so on. And then there was a whole philosophy of where we're going to put the camera and how we're going to move it, which we worked it out together.
Was there
Nadia, I believe...
I'm sorry, was there like a single guiding principle for the way you guys decided to use camera and camera movement?
Yeah, the principle is really Charles and sort of rooting the story through his viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, a lot of the thing is, you know, we were talking about, because Anniston is so static. You know, there's so little he can do. Charles was our gathering force of a movement, and we talked about whether we want to be with him or against him, or observational around him. So that was a lot of determination within the Anniston and Charles conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sort of like the idea that like with Narcissus or X-Teen, that the two characters come in a frame together to be intimate, to show the sense of space between them or the distance. You know, it was all about exploration of the togetherness and division.
And you know, in terms of lighting, you know, like what were some of the things that you're doing with lighting to kind of imply Sag Harbor in Wales, or, you know, I mean, well, obviously you're on a stage for a chunk of it, so you've got to do it from the beginning. But like, you know, again, like about like guiding philosophy. What was the guiding philosophy of lighting? How did you tackle the lighting? Also, like psychologically and stuff. Like, what's the lighting doing in the film for you?
Yes. So. But first of all, we were set in 1994, so I wanted to get that sort of sodium vapor feel to come in, and although orange is portrayed as a sort of fairly warm and fuzzy color, I wanted to feel oppressive afterwards when it comes to the crunch where things get slightly on top of Charles. So we had a sort of regular, Catherine, our designer, got road lights, sort of, you know, the lights which connecting the houses outside of Charles Blakey's house. But I wanted to get that sodium feel, so I borrowed the lights from another gaffer called Dave Nye, and I put them all across the forest, to then be the guiding light of the sort of slight obsession and insanity when it comes to sort of the television moment, where this strobe, the orange light comes in and starts being just quite overwhelming and too strong, and create shafts of shadows and highlights, which he can go in and out, and it's sort of, you know, it has that harsher feel of something imposing onto the house. So that was the sort of the main way of controlling the interior and exterior within the location. And also, you know, we wanted to have a little sort of predetermined moments of like sickly greens, where things about to happen, where you're sort of getting a little bit more inside of Charles's head, like the moment with X-Teen in the petrol station and the gas station, where he's just getting sort of overwhelmed with his memories and the sense of smell on his handkerchief. And then it sort of goes through the science to that dreamland where he wakes up in the middle of the ocean swimming.
Yeah.
So there was the sort of like a, you know, there was the reality scape of the natural light, which was the orange sodium vapor light, and then there was a dreamscape, which was sort of, you know, going through sickly greens to the science and of his memory and his nightmare.
Oh, that's really cool. And it's funny because like I know it was a period piece, and it makes me feel ancient that 1994 qualifies as a period piece. You know, it's but yet, you know, like it was things like, you know, kind of the old school TVs and stuff like that he was and those are really the only giveaways, because it doesn't really announce itself loudly as a period piece. If you're not really paying attention, you don't notice. You know, it's like the kinds of phones they're using or whatever. But, you know, it doesn't, you know, we talk to a lot of people who shoot period pieces, and there's always that question of, are you shooting to show the period? Are you making us try and feel the period? Was there like a specific philosophy again about how you were approaching period? Because it felt to me like, you know, it felt very modern. Like if the story took place today, you know, some things would be different, but it wouldn't be, it wouldn't look that different. But you could tell me that I'm wrong.
No, I think the sort of the importance for all of us was to have the period to be lived in. You know, I think we all lived through 90s and have a memory of it, and things weren't that different. You were just wearing a woolen jumpers quite a lot, and had a different style of cars. You know, my memory of it of 90s is not particularly that different than the reality, except the fact that you don't have a technology around it. So I think it's just a matter of, I think the film is stylized enough that if you then start to bring the stylized 90s, a sort of a period version of the 90s, which doesn't feel very lived in, it's just too much going on already, and I think for me it was just a matter of using the lights which were sort of part of that decade. Rather than doing something extraordinary different.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, is it hard to source? I mean, you talked about the sodium vapor lights, but is it hard to source lights that, you know, like especially if they're practicals on camera in any way? Is it hard to find the fixtures that look period correct? Because, you know, I always hear it's like really. It's easy to replicate 100 years ago. It's a lot harder to replicate 10 years ago.
No, I think in Wales we could find a lot of period fixtures. I mean, we have such a revivals of 60s. No, I don't think it's particularly hard. That things weren't that different. I think it was just a matter of the important part for me was that the coolie light, which was in the basement, I lit it predominantly with a tungsten light rather than LED light, which then turned into a photo flood. So I wanted to have a certain sort of feeling of the tungsten bulb penetrating the skin tones. You know, there's something. I mean, I am a big fan of LED light. I do use LED lights, but I think there's with a single source situation, or what you end up with in the future within the story as a single source light. I think it's quite important to find the light which actually gives you the quality, which is not only soft but has a sort of certain softness and hardness, what I was looking for, and the filament inside of the bulb does to give you that. So that was the sort of, you know, but the predominant look, and then, you know, matching the sodium vapor with a tungsten light was quite easy, because I was looking for certain quality of hardness. But the way how I work, I mix the tungsten with LED, and I think there's also extremely handy way of bringing colors and color changes, which weren't so easy achievable. Obviously, you would have to start gelling on the tungsten light.
Let's talk about the basement a little bit. So, you know, in the movie, the Willem Dafoe character shows up and asks to rent this basement for an exorbitant amount of money, and finally it's agreed upon, but it seems super sketchy. And then after he does, he builds this jail cell in the basement, and the basement set is, you know, I mean, it's in the title of the movie, The Man in the Basement. The Man in My Basement, excuse me. And there's a lot of very important, probing, psychological, like you were saying, sometimes confrontational, sometimes, emotionally connective scenes in this basement. But it's dark. There's basically a jail cell in it. And when you're looking at that and going like, I don't know how many pages of the movie were set in this basement, but a basement's not a big room. How do you go about like keeping the story building and keeping it fresh and not, landing in the same shots all the time, not landing in the same setups, but like, how do you look at that? Because I'm sure you guys spent days upon days in the basement.
I think for everybody's sanity, there was a certain level of basement shooting in situ, sort of in order. I think you need to build that relationship. And I believe that Nadia did not rehearse Anniston and Charles together until they really meet in the basement. The rehearsal happened separately.
Oh, really?
Because those men didn't know each other. So she did do rehearsal, but I don't think they were meeting together until the day when they were shooting.
So they would rehearse with just her, or they would rehearse with another actor standing in or something?
No, just with her.
Okay.
I don't think that was the doing. I mean, they're all extremely professional actors, extremely experienced, and I think the level of novelty of their relationship was really important for her. And I don't know exactly whether they haven't had one rehearsal, but I believe they perhaps didn't. It was new enough that the sort of the relationships once we went to the basement were sort of going within the story order. So that was on the acting side, but we also had a whole relationship of the light, which has been written within the story. So we start at night, they arrive, they have a sort of quite stiff conversation with a glass of whiskey. Then the morning comes in, he brings him cup of coffee, and the whole basement is lit by the daylight. Now, you as a black man are watching a white man sitting in your basement, caged. It's pretty disconcerting. So what he does, he decides to cover the windows and for any possibility for anybody to looking in and see a man in a cage being in a basement. So obviously we have a whole journey of light where we start with the daylight, and then it becomes a sort of free source lighting, and then becomes a two source lighting, and then it becomes a complete darkness. Mm-hmm. So, and then it goes to the moment where after darkness, Charles has deprived Anniston from the light for a few days. So therefore the light feels really oppressive and very bright. So we changed the bulb for it. So part of the light journey was the story within it. And part of it was, moments when we start breaking down their relationship. So we had big conversations at what point we're going to lose the cage and the feeling of the cage, because there are moments where you entirely lose the cage and you are always on the character outside of the cage or inside of the cage without the bars between them. So that was very much a part of our discussions, at what point we start ramping it. And when I watched the film and got inside of the cage, where the camera got inside of the cage, I had a little uncomfortable feeling. It's like, oh, so we were with Anniston, we were with Blakey, with Charles Blakey, all the way through looking at Anniston in the bars. But at what point we are actually inside of the cage, it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So the time when we actually went with Anniston, waiting for Charles to arrive, was very predetermined, and we were discussing on what moment it will happen.
Now, is that just like a camera placement thing, or was there also like an arc to which lenses you were using? Were you going longer or wider? Like, how'd you choose that?
Yeah, no, that was discussion over that too. Also, I think what I discovered is that, for example, in The Silence of the Lamb, they had different types of the width of the cage and the dispersion of the bars, depending on the lens. We obviously didn't have that privilege. So
I've seen that movie a million times, and that's the first time I've ever heard that. That's next time I watch it, I'm gonna watch for that.
I believe that was the case. I hope I'm not saying anything wrong. But the point is that when you are on a 21 mil and when you are on 85 mils, the bars are showing a different level of, your field of view is changing. So you're seeing more of a face and less of a face. Also, it depends when people are in a relationship. Are they close to the bars or far away? So the lens choices and the distance between them, I don't know whether it was so predetermined within the blocking, but it was definitely within our mind, is that when we put the lens and it felt too dense, we needed to go longer to feel more of a face, or we had to step away to have bars more present. But by that time, Nadia and I had understanding of how we want the characters to feel. So that was it was pretty organic. However, I want to say that shooting characters and the bars is very hard, because inevitably somebody is going to lose an eye line, and somebody is going to go strange-eyed, and it's what looks good for the camera, and how actors are acting to each other is very different. It's super restrictive, it's very technical, and at some point all of us were swearing about the bars.
So what was your solution for that? When you say the eye lines, it's like, was it just that they would walk behind a bar and, like at a key moment in their performance and then there's just a bar in front of their face? Or
we had to block it in a way that they really hit the marks. And I think that gives you a testament of just extremely technical professional actors.
Yeah.
That any centimeter to the left or any centimeter to the right. The problem is that when the camera is static, it's so restrictive for everybody to then see the right side of the frame, the right side of the face. And it just become very technical at certain times, and other times, you were moving the camera, and it was also technical because you needed to hit the right spot without the reframe. I think there was one moment or a couple of moments where the eye line changed. I think Nadia managed to spot it. I don't think I do remember it, but yes, it's a pain. It's a real pain.
It does sound like it.
And it's something which, we spent a long time getting right. We had to hit our marks. So I operated majority of the stuff on the dolly and slider, and then we had Mark Covington and another Steadicam operator do the movements, and they were really fantastic within sort of feeling the cage and hitting the right spot. That it just super technical. You really have to be very in tune and understanding the equipment and the actors, and actors had to be very controlled within their body and a position.
Well, I know Willem Dafoe is like a hardcore theater actor and is constantly doing theater, so I would assume that you could probably get a centimeter to the right and he would nail it, because he just seems like he's in that much control of everything he does. He's such a
But Corey is extremely technical as well. You know, he's got classical education. I mean, we were very, very lucky on the obviously. With such a wealth of experience, but also within the technicality of that location.
Yeah. I mean, how many days do you remember offhand? How many days you shot in the basement?
No, but it wasn't that long. It felt
good.
very short. It felt very short and very intense. We were like, also what was quite important that for certain locations, a lot of locations we shot within 2 cameras. But when we got to the basement, it just didn't feel right to shoot 2 camera setups. it felt like a one camera setup. So we wanted to be in control of the storytelling and also the technicality within the bars as well. So it ended up being predominantly a one camera shoot for these setups.
Well, like in a space that restrictive, it seems like one camera would, it would be like, where would you even put the other camera, and how would you make sure that the lighting worked for two cameras, especially with the bar thing that you brought up, like that, like imagine doubling your headaches of trying to make everything work for the bars on two angles. That sounds.
I think it was important for us to have a sort of a progression within the storytelling and a camera telling the story. So for that reason, we chose one camera setups. I think in any other situations, you could probably make it work. It would just be a little bit of a different film. And these are the decision we made for showing the progression. Because, there's only as many places as the actors can go within the location. So the camera actually foretell a lot of the stories, and we wanted the camera movements or lack of movement and choices of the lens to tell that other story. And for that, you really to have that level of control, you really need to do it on one camera. If we were shooting TV dramas and it was a different type of a project, it would be probably more observational.
I mean, do you prefer two cameras on your, or is it just like whatever tool works for whatever project?
I think within any projects you have you have obviously artistic and budgetary restrictions and challenges. Mm-hmm. So it's important to choose the right tools for the myriads of demands you got given as a cinematographer. If I feel that one camera is enough, I try to use the second camera to get ahead. So sometimes in situations, two cameras are very useful because you're shooting two different angles. You can get something a little bit more textural with the second camera, or you could use the second camera to be in another location or giving me another wide shot where my camera, for example, is moving away and I don't have to all of a sudden change. So in general, I prefer to work on two cameras because I think it gets things quicker and I can get the shots I want to tell the story, but it's not exclusive.
But do you tend to operate? Your IMDb picture is a pretty kick-ass operating shot. But do you tend to operate your own? I mean, you operated on this, but do you tend to operate on most shows?
When I can, yeah. I love it. I love it because I really love the connections of actor and when things happening. Lighting is just half of a story. Mm-hmm. Telling story through camera movement and through framing is equally as important. And I'm not saying they're wonderful operators I work with, and there are some people who I had a wealth of experience I collaborated with, and I love that too. But there is something when I shoot two cameras, especially when I took two cameras, I'd like to shoot. I'd like one camera to be mine. I love it because I feel more connected to a story.
No, I completely get that. And I feel like we probably talked to more people on here who, like, if they stopped operating, it was like because it was such a management headache because they were dealing with multiple cameras or, they're making a giant movie. And I feel like so much personality goes into the operation and you can feel it, and obviously they're amazing operators. But if you're doing a 2-camera shoot and you're operating one, are you looking at playback or how are you making sure that the second camera got what you needed?
Most of the time I just hire people who I like working with. And I think it's like with everything. I think you need to, express your desires of where you want to have the shot, listen to what people's ideas are, and then discuss framing ahead of a time. I remember one of the interviews I had a long time ago for an operator, and I work a lot with, when I'm in the US, I work a lot with Devon Catucci, who is a fantastic Steadicam operator. And I just remember when I interviewed him and we talked about the framing, he was just taking notes and asking questions. And I just knew that we were gonna have a really good relationship, because there's something not only about his work, which I saw, which was incredible, but also I knew that when I was communicating my way and my sensibility, I knew that he listened, and we can figure out a language where it's our language, and I think that's the sort of preferable way. And Devin and I did 2 projects. We did Russian Doll together, and then we did Free Women, and he became just such a sort of incredible support. I really miss him in Europe. Because you sort of like you bouncing off each other, and you learn each other's tastes, and it becomes sort of a movie you do together.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And I mean, I feel like I could talk to you all day about Russian Doll. It's such a beautiful, well-made show. It's such a cool show. I feel like I've used up all of our time. But before we go, do you have a website, Instagram, anything that you'd like to get people to check out?
Yeah, my website is www.ulapontikos.com, and the Instagram surprise is Ula Pontikos.
Yeah, well, and so your website has a lot of the commercial stuff that you've done too, and it's really striking and beautiful work. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think people should definitely check it out. But yeah, thank you so much. So the movie is currently streaming on Hulu, The Man in My Basement. Definitely amazing to see. I wish I could have seen it on the big screen. But yeah, congratulations. And, to anyone listening to this, I encourage you to check it out. It's really great work.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Ula Pontikos. Thank you so much, Ula, for coming on the show. And I can't recommend highly enough that people go check out The Man in My Basement, currently streaming on Hulu. I don't know if it's on Huluween or not. I didn't go check my Hulu, but it is on Hulu, and you can watch it there, and it's probably under some category.
It's under Huluween. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Not a horror movie.
And now, short ends.
So, Ilya, it is our patent-pending segment of Short Ends, wherein we talk about our pet obsessions of this past week, only within the last 7 days. If you tell me something you thought about 8 days ago, you are disqualified. What, if anything, have you been thinking about for the last week?
The Running Man remake.
Oh, it looks cool.
It looks really, really good. And I love Edgar Wright. And
Me too.
I feel like, in follow-up to the conversation we just had in our Close Focus, I feel like The Running Man was an okay movie. When I was a teenager and I saw The Running Man, it was fine. There was a couple of yucks along the way.
The Running Man did not win 8 Oscars.
It did not win.
The Running Man launched 0 careers. So it's a solid, kind of pulpy Stephen King adaptation.
Exactly. And I was going to say, to go back to the original source material and to make a new version of The Running Man in the way that Edgar Wright is doing, which just looks like fun popcorn insanity, playing like a totally over the top Glenn Powell. It looks so perfect. It looks exactly like what the story needs. Like that story needed this kind of adaptation. So it's like you and I are both going to watch, the new Amadeus series,
of course.
So we'll see this, but it's like, did the world need it? Were people asking for it? No. I didn't know the world needed or was asking for a new Running Man, and I saw the trailer earlier this week, and I was like, F yeah, I am into this. This is for me. I'm totally going to go see it.
Oh yeah, I saw the trailer. Whenever it dropped, it was over a month ago. Might have been a couple of months ago. And I remember seeing the trailer. And here's the thing. I feel like 80s movies like that, like Schwarzenegger kind of movies. Now, look, Would you remake The Terminator? No. Although they've sort of tried in the various sequels that
they remade Total Recall, and I would say failing poorly, very, very poorly.
Yeah, and it's funny because back then at the time, we're both old enough to remember when Schwarzenegger was in his prime making movies when we were kids.
Sure.
And I remember I was a big RoboCop fan as a teenager, and when I saw that Paul Verhoeven was making Total Recall, I was, Philip K. Dick. So it's like, I don't think I knew very much about the writing of Philip K. Dick at the time, but I knew Blade Runner.
For sure.
And I was all excited about it. And then I was like, oh, Schwarzenegger. And, it's Schwarzenegger camps things up. And that's the thing, is that he camps it up. And he's one of those stars who the movie kind of becomes about his persona, which is an interesting thing to look back on now, because he's just not as much of a zeitgeisty figure in our lives. So when you go watch Total Recall now, you can actually appreciate it for what it actually is and isn't. And I don't think it was the worst idea in the world to remake it. I just don't think the remake they didn't have. I think that you wanted it to have a central attraction like a Schwarzenegger-y thing about it, which could have been amazing visual effects, or it could have been a crazy script, but it just kind of it just was trying to be solid good.
I think you could still remake it as a series and do a real serious reboot and do it in a completely different way, and people would love Total Recall, the whatever it is.
Here's my pitch.
It's great source material. Yeah.
Total Recall as a series, bring back Schwarzenegger and have an older Douglas Quaid in it. Start it 30 years after the original. That's my pitch. You can call me Studios. You all have my number. So anyway, yeah. But the Running Man to me was like even campier, and it was to me an odd mix of tones, which was the Schwarzenegger of the mid to late '80s with Stephen King, which I they don't exactly go together. They're not toothpaste and orange juice, but they're not a natural fit to me. And so to me, what ended up happening was everything that you put Schwarzenegger on came out flavored like Schwarzenegger, and so that's what happened to The Running Man, and it became kind of campy. Now, it's not that the new one looks uncampy, but I feel like they're trying to do more of what the actual story was. I say, having never actually read the book.
I'm really delighted to see the direction it went, because I feel like this is what should, like, people are, there's a generation of people who are familiar with The Running Man. There's a whole new generation that is not. And this to me looks like exactly the type of story that should be remade. It looks like the type of thing. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But Edgar Wright, it's hard for him to do wrong. I really like his stuff.
Yeah, Edgar Wright's always fun. He's always engaging, and I feel like he doesn't for some reason his stuff doesn't always commercially play out as well as I think it should, because he is just an unbelievable talent. And to this day, not only do I watch Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which didn't do especially well in theaters, I've probably seen that movie over 10 times, but I quote it all the time. It's such a good movie, and I feel like that for all of his movies. We had the DP of the Sparks Brothers, his documentary on. I've seen that documentary like 5-6 times. Like, he's, I think, one of the premier visual stylists in directing. Like, he really has a visual attack plan that he goes after with his movies, and you can see it if you watch Shaun of the Dead or Baby Driver. Any of his movies, they're all really fun. Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz to me is still a classic.
I really enjoyed his last movie, Last Night in Soho. I thought that was fantastic. So I mean,
gorgeous film.
All right, so Ben, what is your short end this week?
I've probably talked about this software on here in the past. But this has been heavily weighing on my mind because I'm doing projection design for a play here in Los Angeles called Paper Walls, and I don't know who this short end is for,
because of all of the projection design theater people we've got tuning in every week.
Here's the thing. I feel like I have yet to come across a good film use for the software QLab. It's a theater software for queuing video.
You have definitely talked about it on this show before. I know you and I have talked about this.
So I just wanted to talk about two things in regards to this. So they have a newer version of it. It's version 5.5, and it's extraordinarily powerful. QLab is a software that's extremely reasonably priced and is even rentable, and it only runs on Mac, but you can get these boxes, and the one that we're using is called a BZB2 gear, and that goes. You can get a literally bottom of the line Mac Mini, which is like $600. You can get it refurbished for $500. Bottom of the line M4 Mac Mini, and you can go out of it with one of these boxes. And the Macs are limited in terms of how many monitors they'll give you. But if you go out of it from one of these boxes, it will give you, for every monitor that your computer can give you, it will give you 4 monitors. Now they're HD, they're not 4K. But I keep thinking if you were doing some kind of volume work where you needed to be able to cue video cues and you didn't want to, you weren't going into Unreal Engine, this would probably be a very handy piece of software to have, or at least to try out. And you can use one of these the same computer and these boxes. You can run 2 boxes out of here simultaneously to give you 8 simultaneous streams of video. Now, the box itself is designed to help make video walls, but you can arrange those walls however you want, including they can be coinciding, so you can be making one big picture. And I have yet to test it, but I feel like it would be a way to do kind of like a low budget, if you will, like a poor man's volume or a poor man's,
like
LED
just
wall.
like a rear projection or a front projection type of scenario. Because look, that technique's been used in Hollywood for ages.
I've been kind of thinking as I'm working on this play about the possibilities. And one of the things is that, if you're trying to fill a specific space, they call them stages. They used to call them surfaces. But one thing I realized is that there's an app that you can download for your iPad, which I have, which is a remote. And you can actually connect it to the computer, walk right up to the surface, and use the touch screen to adjust every corner of your of your surface of your stage.
I think actually you're bringing up something really important here, though, too. And there are a lot of people out there who are looking for a more affordable way to create a virtual environment. And people have been doing this in various forms for a very long time. But cameras today have never been more sensitive to light, which means that you could get away with using not the best projector in the world, that's just not going to have maybe the brightest background. You could tone everything and attune everything so you're inside of the same number of foot candles. Also, the resolution on those walls is not particularly good. When you walk up close to the walls,
that's why I think
it's defocused as well.
Using this box, if you needed, like, let's say you were doing a driving shot and you wanted to make 4, 3 or 4 different things because you wanted to see out the side, you wanted to see reflections off the window, and you wanted to see something going on the back window or whatever. You could do that, and resolution at that point is not that's not the most important thing, because at this point you're almost using a projector as a fancy light.
This is exactly my point.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, because the cameras are more sensitive and because you have this software or a box and a screen, if you're willing to set up a little bit more time, spend a little bit more time rather than a bit more money, there's no reason you could not pull off, I'm sure, highly, highly convincing scenario shots all done with projection. This goes all the way back, movies in the 1940s, 1950s used projection as a tool. Granted, it wasn't necessarily as sophisticated as it is today, and they had to work with very, very different light levels. Everything had to be really, really pumped up. They had to be really careful. It was a whole thing, but it was possible to do it. And I think that there should be a modern way to do exactly what you're talking. And maybe someone just needs to come around and say, like, hey, LED walls, sure, they're great. Sure, they're easy to a certain extent, but they are not inexpensive. They are not affordable.
The question that I keep having about QLab in particular as a software for this application, because I've never heard of anyone using it for this, but maybe they have, is like, what would you, if you were doing something that was like a complicated thing that had to cue off of the actor's movement or off of a specific thing, and it was like, in other words, you could build a sequence and make a QuickTime and project it. But if the actor was slightly off, you couldn't change it on the fly because it's just all baked in. But with something like QLab, you can cue it to go to the next thing. So if you needed a lighting effect to happen on a specific line or whatever, and then the actor could just be acting and not trying to be like, okay, counting a metronome in their head or waiting for a certain thing to cue them, they could just kind of be in their scene doing their thing. And an operator could literally just hit a space bar when the time came. You could... I feel like there's an untapped thing in here. And if anyone has any ideas about it, feel free to reach out to me. I will talk your ear off about it. Also, you can just go to QLab's website or go to their Instagram. It used to be Figure 53. I think it's just qlab.app now. That's QLAB. So anyway, I'm not here to wax QLab's car. I've been using it a lot, and it's been making me think about other things that it could be used for.
I think that's a perfect way to leave it. Ben, where can people find you if they want to track you down?
You can find me at benrock.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn and various other social media places. Blue Sky, Facebook. I don't know. I've been really busy with work, so I haven't had time to be on much of that. But yeah, I'm also on Instagram. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'm deadly serious. If someone's like, "Hey, your QLab thing sounds intriguing, but I don't understand what the hell you're talking about," let's talk. Maybe I can spark some ideas that might help you with an idea that you're trying to put together. Ilya, where can people find you?
You can find me over at Hot Red Cameras, hotredcameras.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. It seems like LinkedIn, I'm getting more messages these days. So anyway, Ben, this show would not have been possible without the help of some other people. Who made this show possible?
Number one with a bullet is our producer, Alana Cody, who gets us all the interviews and also edits every freaking episode right now. So, if you're an editor and you want to edit this instead of her, talk to her. But I don't know. She hasn't complained about it, so maybe she likes it. I don't know. I enjoy editing. So I just don't like editing my own voice. Anyway, so we got to thank her for everything, and she gave us both a massive list of people who we're about to be talking to, and because as we're moving into Oscar season,
it's a long one. Yeah,
it's a long one. We've already seen a couple of them, and some of them have yet to come out. We got to thank also Kays Alatrakshi, who composed every scrap of music that you hear on here. Check him out on YouTube at Kays Labs, where he repairs old synthesizers, and go to his website, musicbykays.com, and hire him to score your next whatever the hell you have to score. He's a great composer. Good God, somebody hire this guy.
All right, Ben, I think that just about does it for this episode. Would you like to take us out?
Thanks for tuning in.
This has been the Cinematography Podcast, presented by Hot Rod Cameras. Find your next camera, lens, or accessory on the web at hotrodcameras.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on iTunes and connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening.